First of all, congratulations on making such a fantastically stylish film. It really is, I guess, a low-budget film nevertheless.
It's very low budget. That's true.
The majority of the budget came from a telefilm micro-budget grant, so it was $120,000. But that's not the entire budget. It's just the majority of it.
And you really do satirise the genre and send up this kind of fantastically over-the-top macho culture that really kind of is present in a lot of the kind of Italian films that you satirise, I guess here. Was that always the intention? Are you big fans of giallo movies or more critical?
We're fans, first of all, definitely. We would all just sit around and watch giallo movies all the time years ago and pick them apart and often laugh at them because there's so much that's totally absurd about them. And obviously, the easiest thing to poke fun at is the dubbing. So that's in there. But yeah, we're all fans of all the major giallo movies, all of us.
The homoerotic undertones are easy to make fun of, too. It's an easy joke.
Yeah. That's in all giallos.
It's in a lot of them. It's really in The Strange Vice of Miss Ward and Strip Me of Your Killer, stuff like that.
So for those people that are new to giallo itself, could you explain what that genre is to you?
It's Italian horror movies from the 70s and 80s. They're all dubbed because Italian movies were always dubbed until I think the 90s, it seems. So these were dubbed as well. Lucio Fulci and Dario Argento are probably the biggest or widest known giallo filmmakers. Always super saturated colors, especially from Argento. And always a lot of misogyny, which we obviously referenced. And yeah, always a black leather gloved killer, lots of straight razors, any other tropes, usually a Claudio Simonetti score, which we got a piece of.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about the dubbing, which obviously means that even more attention is paid to detail in post-production. That must have been enormously difficult as well, knowing that you're going to go back and re-loop your own dialogue and make it sound bad.
Tell us what that was like, Conor.
Yeah, it wasn't fun because most of it was shot. If we had shot with a guide track, it would have been all right because you could see the cadence and remember what you said. But we improvise a lot in our movies, and we still did in this, which was so stupid of us because we didn't know what we said. Like it didn't line up with the script. That's what we used as our guide track was the script. So when we went off script, which is often, we had to watch it. Like Matt and I were looping the other day, and it was like frame by frame trying to figure out what the fuck I'm saying. And the part when I'm loading up the trunk, and I'm like turning my head away. So there's parts where we just made up new stuff.
Which they probably did as well.
Which they definitely
did, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the authentically recorded no guide track on these Italian movies. It was entirely MOS, no sound. And Clint Eastwood talks about not remembering what he said in takes, and he said he always tried to minimize his dialogue. Like, we don't need this line, let's lose this line. So that later there was no worry about how to say it in dubbing.
Because you always dub it months later, so you don't remember.
Yep.
But talking about the soundtrack as well, the Claudio Simonetti track, it's a fantastic soundtrack. So two questions essentially really. Will the soundtrack become available? And how did you secure a new track from Claudio Simonetti?
We just asked Claudio, and he was very cool. We talked to some other people. All the musicians were just very generous because we don't really have much money to offer them. There might be a soundtrack. We can't promise one because we don't really have the soundtrack rights to almost all the music because we don't have the money. So when we're making the deal with the musician, we just, we can only offer you this much money, but we'll just ask for the right to use it within the movie and nothing else. And then the musician's like, yeah, that's cool, because I want to put a song in the movie, but can't really profit from it otherwise outside of the movie. We do have the rights to a couple of those songs, so we could make like a half soundtrack. But maybe the musicians would want to collaborate. Like I know that Death Waltz is interested in talking to everybody and maybe doing a soundtrack together, which would be awesome. I mean, it's a really cool soundtrack. We're lucky to have all the musicians involved.
Yeah, you pulled together some fantastic music, and you also pulled together quite a unique cast. How did you set about getting that cast together, and as well, supplemental to that, what was it like working alongside them as fellow actors?
Well, getting them was similar to the music. You just go to IMDb and get an IMDb Pro page, and then you find out the agent or the actor, and you email them and say, listen, I got this role for you in this movie, and they're like, great, send a script. You send a script, and they're like, great, I love it, so what's the deal? What are you going to pay? And this is the agent, and you're like, well, I can't pay much at all. And they're like, well, you can't, well, my actor's not going to do your movie. And that's the hard part, really, from there on. But somehow, you can either lie to them, which works, but somehow you'll get the actor.
And with Udo Kier as well?
Nicest guy ever, yeah. He's really slumming it more than anybody, because we paid him like, I don't know, 100th of what he normally gets paid, and that guy's not looking for work. He's booked. He flew in off of a movie that he was shooting in Europe, and he flew out to do Batman voices for the cartoon. And, he's working all the time. He had just shot Nymphomaniac before the movie he was shooting anyway. But he's a very nice guy, is the cool thing. And he just wanted to be in a weird movie.
And it was great working with them. It was great working with Lawrence and Udo, and especially Udo, to see how quickly he brings the character to life so well. The minute he sits down and starts saying the lines, it's like...
Yeah, we're just playing around with a camera and our friends, and then suddenly you're watching a real movie for a minute while it's on Udo. That's how it feels in the room when you're shooting it.
It's intimidating acting with someone who can act.
Did you feel intimidated by it? I think your performances are quite, and obviously, you're also having to perform to a kind of a bad template as well. You made it.
See, that's a great safety net to have.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
That's ironic acting is what that is. We meant to do it. It's not a mistake.
It certainly wasn't intimidating being around Udo at all, but I did find acting with him was like, oh, he's making it look so bad.
We were afraid of him. We were terrified of him, but he immediately brings you down. He's so cool. He's so normal and so nice. So he's very generous as an actor. We shot all his angles one night and kept him up till 5 a.m. in a hot August warehouse, and his clothes were soaked. And we wrapped him, said, you can go home, and we're going to shoot Matt's angles. And he insisted he stay because he said, I'm in the scene. I want to be in the scene. And we said, it's just your shoulder in the scene. Anyone can be a lab coat shoulder. And he was like, yeah, but who's he going to act against? He needs to react to me. And he stayed for a couple more hours, and he didn't complain, ever. Not about anything. And he gave up his dressing room and suggested we use it for like a video monitor room, and we did. Yeah.
So you do here. The filmmakers in the room.
And Conor as well. As actors, do you guys feel like you need to be more away from each other and in other people's projects? Are you getting offers?
We have small offers. There's nothing.
Good question for you, though.
Yeah, I did a small part in the new ABCs of Death for the Soska sisters part. And they had approached us just because they had seen Manborg and Father's Day, and we were mutual fans of each other's. We're all Canadian. And I was living in Vancouver at the time, so I did a part in theirs, and like all of us are open to do other stuff. But like whenever we have worked on separate projects, even if it's with people that we really like the Soskas, it just doesn't feel the same as working with each other. This is always the preferred method.
Chemistry.
Yeah, there's a certain chemistry, and we put up with each other, and we just speak the same language. And
English.
Should we take some questions from the audience?
Yeah.
Has anyone got any questions? Yeah?
When you first got into, you all do loads of parts of filmmaking. When you first got into it, what part did you envisage being? Did you want to be directors?
It started for me when I was like 7. I wanted to be an actor, and then I decided that was too hard. So I thought I'd do the much harder job of being a filmmaker, and then I can cast myself in my own films. And quickly got right into filmmaking, and that's how I got started anyway.
Yeah, I think that we all felt the same way, that we wanted to do everything, and the easiest way to get a part in a movie is to write and direct that movie yourself, and to write parts for yourself. That is a surefire way to get a role. Yeah, I don't think that any of us have one thing that we particularly set out wanting to do more than any other. We always wanted to do the whole package, right?
Yeah. We're just waiting to do our Goodwill Hunting, basically. Next will be that.
Have we got any more questions? Yep.
Hi. Obviously, there's lots of different homage to different film styles, and some of those film styles are quite clunky originally. So you put that clunk in for laughs. And but do you ever watch part of your own film with an audience and say, well, that bit wasn't supposed to be funny, and it's still getting.
No, it was all supposed to be funny. There's no part that you can laugh at that would offend us. We were happy to have people laugh at this. It's supposed to be funny. I think we're disappointed when people don't laugh.
But that reminds me of something when Matt and I were making movies alone together, when we all hated each other. We made a movie where we tried to be really, really scary, with no humor at all. And Adam was in the audience of it, we didn't know him. And we felt very strongly about this movie, that it was very scary and very good. And Adam was like Cape Fear, like the scene in Cape Fear where he's sitting in the front laughing hysterically. And we were looking around like, who is this?
Who is this asshole?
And it's our best friend now.
And that movie sucked.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Yeah, is there any plans to do a feature length for the bio?
We've heard this question before. Not as of yet, no. Ask Steve.
Yeah, it's not our movie. It's Steve Kostanski's project, and he has no plan to.
Yeah. If you want to produce it, he'll do it, I'm sure. Are you rich?
Not yet, not yet.
Well, get started.
Any more?
That was a great festival, really enjoyed it. It's like watching a Franco Nero film that I've discovered.
Great, thank you. That's the best.
Working with a much bigger crew, did you find it easy relinquishing those responsibilities to
That's funny that you think it was a much bigger crew.
That's why I wanted to. That's why I wanted to jump on it.
We did have a larger crew for a few days.
For 20% of the movie, we had a crew, and it was not that big a crew. We had 2 or 3 gaffers, we had a cinematographer, and a camera operator, and a focus puller, and one gaffer, if I didn't mention him. And then they blew all our money along with some other people on the crew, and then we were broke. And we also hated them, so we shit-canned them. And then we shot the rest of the movie ourselves, and that crew
was like 4 people.
You're basically looking at that crew. We used a dolly made out of wood with like rollerblade wheels, and like Matt would stand on the dolly and push the button, and I would push the dolly. There's no one else. We didn't have a sound person for any of it, except for the scenes with the celebrities, and we had to pay for that, which sucked. But and then Matt's mom is the one making the food, and our girlfriends would bring like snacks, and there was so being the full crew sucks is the answer. We'd love a crew. We want help from a crew. We don't want to do all the jobs and spread ourselves so thin. But I'm glad you think there's a crew.
Yeah, the crew is truly the same size as in the shorts that you saw. Exactly the same size crew as in the very small, crappy
We just had to carry around a lot more gear and a lot heavier gear than we used for those shorts.
Yeah, the process was exactly the same though.
Just harder.
And the Franco Nero thing, channeling Franco Nero a little.
I just love hearing somebody say Franco Nero. But yeah, I was trying to be Franco Nero. That's what I was
You got it. You win.
I would listen to a CD of him talking on a loop, but I thought, okay, I'll get a good accent down. But then the stress of filmmaking just obliterates all that, and you just find yourself on set. Okay, what the fuck am I supposed to say? Because I'm thinking about how we have an hour left, and we have to get this done, and how's the shot set up, and should I move that light to the left 6 inches? It kind of, I would love to just be an actor, I think.
Yeah. Agreed.
We have another question down here as well. Yeah, do you want?
Yeah, you say you got Udo Kier involved because he wanted to be in a weird movie. How did you actually sell the film to him when you spoke to
We
him?
didn't sell it to him at all. There was no phone call about it, and there was no email about it. We sent him the script, and he wrote back and said, I like the script. Here's my agent. And we talked to the agent, and we couldn't make a deal with the agent at all. And then the agent finally said, listen, Udo really wants to do it, so he'll do it for your pittance. And then Udo was so cool. Like, he had dinner and lunch with us every day he was there. He insisted on it, and it was awesome because he had the greatest stories. That guy's best friends with like the coolest, biggest names you've ever heard of. And he would tell us, having done over 210 movies at the time, like now I think it's over 220, he's done everything. And he says it's really cool to not have to prove yourself anymore. There's no, And so now he just does what he thinks will be fun to be on set for. He doesn't care how big it is. He said, working on Armageddon, being the small piece of a movie like Armageddon is really no fun. But being a small piece on a movie that's a real passion project is fun. And so he just wants to seek out passion and something different. And that's so cool for us. I mean, just so lucky for us.
At our stage, we'll happily do Armageddon.
Yeah, I think he would still do Armageddon too.
But that passion that you got also meant that it led you to not just having to take on all these roles, but also to do all of the stunt work in the film as well.
Yes, we did our own stunts. That's us driving the cars, and that's not us. I mean, we set ourselves on fire. Both of us are on fire in the movie, and that's our friend Jen, who is the girl on fire at the end, and she's not a stunt woman, and we didn't have any stunt people there or stunt equipment. We didn't have any stunt equipment in the cars. They were just unregistered shit cars.
Jen died.
You gotta break some eggs.
She died in hospital later, though, not on set.
Not on set. Legally, it wasn't our
It
fault.
was really an infection that killed her.
Yeah, soothing infection. That's what we said.
Have we got any more questions? Yep.
Practical effects wise, which was the hardest to pull off?
It's interesting. We've gotten this question before.
Practical effects are always hard.
Yes, practical effect will always go wrong on take one, and you'll have blood all over everything. So then take two will be hours away because you got to clean up. So they're all shitty. What was shittiest here? I know what was shittiest was when we ran out of money and we stopped having an effects guy, and we still had a couple of the effects appliances that had been made, and then Matt and I had to be the effects guys. That sucks because we don't know what we're doing. And there's a whole handful of effects, like the axe-faced woman, Marguerite, after she's got the axe in the face, and when she gets her hand chopped off, her fingers chopped off, stuff like that we did alone, and it went pretty wrong.
I feel like it's not even a big effect, but I felt like one of the hardest, most stressful practical effects was shooting Bella's death. And she just gets stabbed in the hand. But it was like...
It went so wrong.
It was just such a shit day.
Yeah.
We couldn't get that simple effect to work right.
I was the one stabbing her, and the tube of blood kept disconnecting in my sleeve, and we'd stab the hand, and then my whole sleeve would fill up with blood and my coat. But you wouldn't see a drop on her. So that sucked, I guess.
Yeah, it was a hard day.
One more question, if we've got time. Then my final... Oh, right at the back, Steve.
How hard was it to cut the film?
Really hard.
Hard to cut without sound.
Yeah, it was fucking hell to cut because you're supposed to have it locked before you do the sound mix. And you can't... How do you edit the scene when you can't hear what people are saying? And the rhythm, I mean, it was really tough. It was really tough. And since this version you've seen, I cut 90 seconds out of it because some of the reviews were like, it's a little strags, and I was like, all right, cut 90 seconds out. Maybe I should cut some more out. What do you guys think? Well, this is your chance.
Fine as it is.
Put that 90 seconds
What's
back.
that?
It's fine as it is.
Okay, I don't want to read any reviews later. Out of this room, this was your chance. I can still change it before it comes out on Blu-ray. So
Every time we watch it, we kind of have more notes for improvements.
Do you do that? Yeah, like literally, like at the moment you're festival touring the film. So does that give you a real chance to kind of reflect on it?
well, we never watched it with anybody before it played TIFF, so it was kind of our first test audience, which is a crazy place for your first test audience. Get a test audience. I think that's what we learned. Show it to some people. It went over really well, actually. It went over very well, but we've seen the movie so many times now. We can only see the flaws and the things we wish were better. I think that's normal.
Mhm.
We watched What We Do in the Shadows with Jermaine Clement, and he slept behind the screen on a couch and said he couldn't bear to watch the movie again.
And we love that movie.
And that movie's great. See that movie
On Sunday.
on Sunday.
Selling some more tickets. On that note as well, I guess we should wrap up. You guys are going to stay around and going to be just outside the doors if people want to get anything signed or buy
Yes.
these fantastically cool edited t-shirts.
Yes, we have a few editor t-shirts left. I don't want to bring them back to Canada with me, so I am like 5. There's like 5 or maybe more, but there's a few. There's like a couple of each size. It
And we've got
seems.
some gorgeous editor posters as well. From
Yes, Graham Humphrey's editor posters are also out there. So.
Just one last question, I guess, really. Then, at the moment, you're touring the film, but have you got plans yet? Do you know what you're doing next? You did divorce Dad as well during that time, I guess. So, what next?
Yeah, we've got Divorced Dad. We have a few episodes worth of footage for that. We've got ideas. We have one full script and enough, like a bunch of treatments just for stuff in all different types of genres. So now it just depends on what somebody wants to fund. So we'll come to different producers with different ideas, and whatever sticks is what we'll do next. All of the ideas are stuff we're really excited about. So yeah, I hope something.
So tell your producer friends.
Do tell them.
Turns out money's the hardest part.
Yes.
Weird.
Who would have thought? Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. And the editor.